Hello, hello, hello. Thank you, everyone. My name is Andrew Williams. We're going to get started right away here. Quick check. Hey, can everyone in the back hear me? Perfect. Thumbs up. Great. If you guys could make your way to the seating area, we're going to get started right away. Thank you so much for coming out. My name is Andrew Williams. I'm the CEO of the Toronto Product Management Association. I'm also a startup founder and a product manager by trade. To start things off, we're just going to do a quick land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Quick question, raise of hands. How many of you have been to a TPMA event before? Okay, that's pretty good. How many of you been to, if you've been to a TPMA event, keep your hands raised. How many of you been to 3 TPMA events? 5? 10? Yeah, wow. Okay, so if you need, to get a sense, a lay of land introduced, just follow those people that have had their hands up because they've been around, they know the community. We are Toronto's longest running product management association. It started in the early 2000s and has gone through many iterations. We help the product community grow through things like networking events, mentorship program. We have an education bursary, a Slack community, lots of different things. And really, it's just a bunch of people working in technology, building cool things, and helping each other out. We would not be able to do what we do without the support of places like BrainStation. And so we're just going to have a few words from Mitch to tell us a little bit about what they do.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. And welcome, everyone. Welcome to BrainStation. Who was here at the last event at BrainStation? Okay, not too many people. So it's going to be the same intro. My name is Mitch Savage. I'm a manager here at BrainStation, and really excited to welcome back the TPMA into our space. We're always excited to have community groups like the TPMA here, because at BrainStation we are a global leader of digital skills training as well as workforce transformation. We work with professionals like yourself who are looking to build durable careers and maintain durable careers in product design, marketing, data, as well as AI. At the same time, we work with industry-leading organizations, helping ensure that their teams are really equipped for the skills of the future in this digital economy. Community is a really big driver here at BrainStation, which is why we run these have organizations like TPMA into our space, but we also do run tons of events at BrainStation Toronto. So on that topic, we have 2 really great events next week. One's an AI evenings with Bordy on Tuesday next week. And then on Thursday next week, we actually have a panel, Leaders in Product, that I think everyone in this room might be interested in. So I highly recommend taking a look at the BrainStation website. You can see carousel events on the front TV dashboard. But if you have any questions, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Mitch Savage. Thanks everyone for being here this evening. Hope it's a great panel, and I will see you guys all next month, hopefully.
Thanks so much. Okay, as I've mentioned, we are a volunteer-powered organization, and we really couldn't do what we could do without the help of a lot of people. So this is just a quick slide of just some of the people. We have over 50 volunteers in different areas, but maybe just a quick round of applause for everyone that was involved in putting this event together. We are also a community of people that are like-minded, and this is a chance to get to know each other and meet each other. So I know these things are awkward, but I actually would love you to look around, maybe find someone that you haven't met before, and just as a question prompt, we'll spend like a minute here. Ask each other, what product would you dream of working on? That's it. Okay. Okay. I opened up a conversation, but I'm gonna have to cut us off. Wow. I mean, I got a bunch of product managers to talk about what product they want, so that would be fine. Thank you so much for taking and running with the whole thing. So, but we're gonna keep on going. You have now met hopefully a new person, and you have got a place to start your conversation after this is all going. We have a lot of people that are highly passionate about the things that they do today, and now hopefully you know a little bit about someone sitting next to you. We have a tier in our community called Community Builders. Essentially, it's a way of getting 25% off of all of the TPMA programming. And we have, and so it's merely $30 a year, which is very affordable, but you get 25% off of all future events, mentorship programs, different things like that. So check that out online. And we have lots and lots of people that have signed up in this year alone. So maybe you can join them. Coming up, we got the very first TPMA edition of Product TO. Who knows what Product TO is? Has ever been to Product TO? Okay, wonderful. So Product TO is, I think, one of the most fun and exciting event formats that has been running in Toronto for a very long time. It's been curated by Mei Wong, who's just seated over there for many years. And essentially, it's a set of small, dedicated discussion groups where you get to have like frank, open, private discussions with people working deeply in the industry. And so we'll be hosting the first one in November 13th. It's only for dedicated, like working people that have product management experience. So you should be getting an email if you meet that criteria and you're a TPMA member. But if you don't know, if you do, you can apply to be a part of the event on our website. So check that out. We also have an event here at BrainStation in November, Life's a Pitch, How to Get Where You Want, which is a one-on-one conversation with Tammy Reese, a corporate trainer and CEO at Leader Within, our board member in charge of the events, Rosemary, who's just sitting at the back. We're having a sort of a great in-depth conversation about how you can kind of get where you want from a career planning perspective. This is really great for people that want to take their career to the next level, how to frame their story, how to take experience that is maybe in one area and take it and present it in a new area. Okay, let's get to the good stuff, and I'm going to get out of here. So building purpose-driven products. We have an amazing panel, and we have an amazing moderator to take us through this conversation. As a reminder, we will be doing questions via Slido. If you haven't used Slido before, essentially it allows us to grab questions. You can upvote questions that you like, bring this thing. So we'll be showing this again later, but this is a good opportunity to grab the questions and start putting them into the queue. But I'd love to invite Will Matfield Scarborough. So Will and Stephen came to the TPMA with this session in mind. This was like 6 months ago. So Will and Stephen were really passionate about this idea of building purpose and products. And Will is the former director of digital services at the Center for Social Innovation, deeply experienced in this area. And so please give a big round of applause to Will.
Got it. Close enough for the mic? Gotcha. All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight for a conversation about purpose-driven products. As you know, my name is Will Matfeld Sarbaugh. I have the pleasure of moderating this panel. In this role, I will introduce some of the topics. I will introduce the speakers, and then I will highlight some takeaways along the way and remind you to please submit your own questions via Slido. So many products have social impacts, but few products are designed specifically to have social impacts. And yet, Imagine Canada says that social impact organizations employ 1 in 10 Canadians and are responsible for 8% of the GDP annually. And these are mostly not-for-profits and charities, but they're having outsized impacts in our lives and our communities. They're working to combat climate change. They're working to secure local food systems, support newcomers, and provide life-saving healthcare. like any industry, social impact organizations and their work are relying on digital products. And despite this need, pathways to product careers in social impact organizations aren't always clear. Oh, I can get louder. I just didn't want to. Cool. So despite this need for digital platforms in social impact organizations, the career path to building product careers isn't always clear or easy to follow. Often, social impact organizations can be have fewer resources or have greater constraints placed on the use of those resources, and some of them may not have a product culture. And yet it's never been more important to build digital experiences that connect people to information, causes, opportunities, and each other. So now it is my distinct pleasure to welcome our panel to the stage and hop into a conversation about building products and product careers in social purpose organizations. Our first panelist is Stephen Baldwin. Stephen, come on up. Stephen is the Director of Digital Product at Imagine Canada and the product lead for Grant Connect. Grant Connect is a platform that is connecting thousands of not-for-profits across Canada to millions of dollars in funding that is delivering value in every province and territory. Stephen is also a member of the Canadian Centre for Nonprofit Digital Resilience and a noted tech journalist. You may have read his writing in Fortune, Report on Business, and the Toronto Star. Our second speaker is Ilya Krenin. Ilya is a systems engineer turned product and growth leader. He's passionate about civic action in Toronto. He spent the last 5 years translating civic enthusiasm into democratic action through collaboration, design, and technology. You can find him at Metro Hall, working with the city's open data team at Civic Tech Toronto and building the civic dashboard. And now at the TPMA. Put your hands together for Ilya. Our third panelist is Melody Trong. Melody is the product leader at Canada Helps, where she's building tools that help small charities to work more efficiently and amplify their impact. Since the year 2000, Canada Helps and the Canada Helps platform has enabled 5 million Canadians to donate more than $3.5 billion in funding to charities nationwide. Before coming to Canada Helps, Melody co-founded Toucan Giving and led product vision and execution to modernize the donation experience and make giving second nature. So without further ado, let's talk about impact. All right. Stephen, do you mind starting? The first question is, what is the most significant impact your products have made in the world or a product you've worked on?
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about my product. So I think the biggest thing is just over the years connecting thousands of charities and nonprofits with millions in funding through the Grant Connect platform. And I think like that's kind of at the surface level, but I think on a deeper level, what we try to do is create long-term relationships between charities and funders, because you can get one grant and it's exciting, but then you have to sustain yourself for years if you really want to be sustainable and have a long-term impact. So I think we try to measure those long-term relationships where the funders and the charities are aligned. The second way I think we've had a really important impact is more at a systemic level, and I think it's something that in product doesn't come up enough. That we're when we put out products and features, they don't exist in a vacuum. Like they impact all kinds of different systems, industries, and the nonprofit sector is really good at looking at the systemic impacts and ecosystem impacts. And I think we can bring more of that into every product. So yeah, I think with Imagine Canada, like with Grant Connect and also the policy and research work we do, we've really helped to improve the funding environment, make funding more fair, equitable, accessible for million or thousands of organizations.
Thank you, Stephen. Melody, same question to you.
So at Canada Helps, as Will had mentioned, we've processed over 3.5 billion donations since 2000. On my team specifically, Canada Helps Ensemble, we're focused on helping charities reduce their administrative and operational burdens. So this is everything outside of the fundraising process. So at Toucan Giving, this was birthed during the time of COVID. So at this time, a lot of charities lost their face-to-face donations. So this was about bringing another online opportunity for charities to still gather those donations. And even though I'm no longer with Toucan Giving anymore, I do still keep in touch with my co-founder just to see what's up. In their first rollout, the National Poppy, there's like a National Poppy Appeal, which is done during November 11th, Remembrance Day. Their first rollout, they raised additional £4 million. And our most recent update, they've rolled this out nationwide now. So that's about 40,000 different collectors. So it's just great to hear that something you worked on has, become something more impactful.
Thank you. Ilya, same question to you.
Yeah. I spend a lot of time in the civic tech space in the city of Toronto. Show of hands, who here has been to or has heard of Civic Tech Toronto? Okay, some representation here. So a lot of the products that are built there and a lot of the tools that are built completely by volunteers. And so there's no money in, no money out. And this is a pretty different way of building technology and pretty different from the things you learn working on startups. And so the Civic Dashboard project, which I'm lucky to do product work on, has had about 70 people make meaningful contributions that I could point to on the website. So I could speak to the things that Civic Dashboard has done to help folks directly access what your city council is doing, understand how it works, know when something that you care about is happening and what you can do about it. But I think the biggest impact that it has is having more and more Torontonians with the kinds of superpowers that the people in this room have, knowing that they can apply their skills without waiting for somebody to pay them or without waiting for somebody to ask them to do it, that they can apply them to directly improving their city. So I think the biggest impact of that is pulling more people into this kind of work.
Thanks, Ilya. I'm going to piggyback off that and start with you with this question, if I may. How do you measure success when the goal is impact rather than just revenue or engagement?
You have to think a little more. I think you often start with like a theory of change, and you start with understanding the community that you are serving, and saying, what if you are going to move numbers? What are the numbers that you are going to move outside of revenue? And if you like, I mean, again, the projects that I often work on have no money throughput, but even when you do, you see the money as a resource in service of the goal rather than the goal as only relevant if it is an upstream metric for the amount of money that you make. So a concrete example, I was a product manager at this Canadian company called Newmode, which made software for progressive digital activists. And so it is a company, it's a for-profit company, it has to make enough money. But that company makes money does not mean that it has the impact it wants to have. You have to start thinking, okay, how many people have they directly connected to policy? How many policies have been changed by Newmode users? How many organizations were able to achieve their policy goals when they otherwise would not have after switching to Newmode? So you start having these like much more precise and potentially more expansive definition of a metric. And money, if it exists there, is in service of that, not vice versa.
Thank you. So, Melody, in your work, how are you measuring success when the goal is impact?
So with an operations platform, we're trying to improve efficiency and effectiveness amongst charities when it comes to their operational needs. So much like any regular organization, you still have to consider quantitative and qualitative. It's just what you're measuring specifically. So for us, we might be like, how much time are we saving charities when it comes to, passing off their spreadsheets to their finance, their bookkeeper? Or, how much time are we taking off their plate when it comes to donor stewardship? That's huge with charities, right? So making sure you thank them after donation, making sure you thank them after, gifting a tax receipt. It's like, are we improving that for them? And then on the qualitative side, I would say, especially being at charities, it's much more human-centric and user-centric compared to like the startups that I've worked at. Not to say that startups aren't, it's just that it's echoed as much more of a collective, I've found. And so having these user conversations very regularly, pulling out their stories, truly understanding what their needs are, because it gets really granular and so specific. And those are the details that you want to pull out and also try to attach to different things that you're measuring.
Thank you, Melody. Stephen, can I pivot the question ever so slightly?
Yeah, sure.
And say, and ask you how the target market or the beneficiaries that you're serving affect how you define success when the goal is impact.
Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, I guess instead of having shareholders or customers, you have yeah, the community you're serving, you have funders. I think I wanted to also say though that like revenue and engagement, I still like we still track those things. They still can be something of a proxy for impact. Like if you're not in the social impact sector and you think like we don't talk about money and revenue, like you're mistaken. And we yeah, and we don't call we don't. I was just saying to Melody, we don't use words like sales. It's like outreach, development. Like it's not which are all sales, but so yeah, I do think those work, but I think I guess just to get back to your framing, well, like yeah, your charity, the mission is so central, like it's baked into your governance. So it's like a legal requirement for you to be following your mission. So you can make you can earn revenue, but it has to be aligned. So Imagine Canada's mission is to strengthen nonprofits and charities so they can serve their communities. That means all charities and nonprofits. So if all of our revenue is coming from just like large organizations in big cities, then we're not fulfilling our mission. So we look at, and our funders are interested in, are you serving, all charities? Are you serving charities, all over the country and not just in the large cities? And so we have to kind of demonstrate impact that way of just like, are we also like along with the large hospitals and universities, are we helping the two-person indigenous-led organizations? And so yeah, like yeah, and again, if I was a for-profit product, I would definitely focus on the medium and large size organizations in the big cities, but that wouldn't align with our impact.
Thank you. So we've talked about impact at a community level. We've talked about impact at a national level. We've talked about impact in terms of serving everyone. We've talked about impact in terms of generating revenue to fund programs that serve everyone across Canada. And so that's a lot of different entry points to product work and social impact. If you were someone coming from the private sector, what product skills or approaches do you think would be generally applicable? And what, in your experience, required the most adaptation? Shambi,
Yeah,
you want to
sure.
go first? Go first.
Okay. I think a lot of the skills still apply. Like I think a lot of product thinking in any industry, like it will apply to a lot of products. I mean, maybe Grant Connect is unique, but with a lot of different products, like I think that product thinking, it's kind of sector agnostic. It translates. I do think like being mission driven and that whole side, which seems vague, like it's really important if you're going into a nonprofit to have the self-awareness that's important to you, because there's going to be times when you're slightly underpaid, you're slightly overworked, and if you don't believe in the mission, then you're not really going to stick it out. And like when I'm hiring people, I look at that, like I don't have anything against, like if someone derives their meaning and has a mission outside of work, like that's totally fine. It's just different. But if you don't derive your meaning from work, you probably shouldn't be working in social impact, because you're not going to be able to endure through those hard times. So I try to kind of get a sense of that and give anyone like in the hiring process, like tell them the reality of that. Because yeah, I think it's really important.
Thank you. Melody, as Tim talked a lot about the kind of the personal fit and the personal motivations, were there specific skills when you transferred from product and for-profit organizations to social purpose organizations that you found were really helpful?
So I'm going to continue along the kind of like user empathy area. I think a lot of the skills that come from being product minded, being UX minded, you have the skills to be able to pull these insights and make connections and find patterns. Because something that I noticed within, some social impact organizations is that there's a ton of insights, there's a ton of findings, there's a ton of research, but it is almost overwhelming in a way. So as product people, I think you bring your skill sets around prioritization, around finding patterns and being able to make sense of a lot of the findings that charities have.
All I'd add to this, because that was awesome, is you leave your ego at the door. Ultimately, I think there's like a lot of corporate spaces that reward talking yourself up, talking a big game and all of that. And like there's room for that in areas of life. But in this case, like you come to serve, right? Ultimately, like people here, either like you have these skills, you're developing them, and you're bringing them especially to a space that doesn't default know about them, and you are there to serve that mission. The mission of the place is not to make digital products and make money. And so you're coming in asking the question, how can I serve? And I think it's I think in general a good attitude to have in life, but it is one that is often not explicitly talked about or rewarded in other spaces, and very much is the way to go when you're working with nonprofits and when you're working with communities directly. You work for and with them.
Thank you. Can I piggyback on that? You mentioned service and you mentioned getting involved. Can you just talk a little bit about, for early career professionals, what are practical ways that you can gain experience?
Oh man, that's my favorite. You don't have to ask permission. The beautiful thing about like doing like purpose-driven and social impact work is there is a nigh on infinite amount of amazing work that needs doing right here in your city, right in your community, wherever it is you are. There are probably like nonprofits and community groups who could use your help if you go and talk to them, or just like even like people like in your neighborhood, or pick whatever issue you care about. If you can frame a product about it, you can probably find people who are willing to work with you on it. So the cool things there are, one, you can make a really significant impact without having to wait for somebody to pay you for it. And number two, the best thing you can have on your resume if you are looking to get paid for it is having done this work already. And oftentimes, this has been my experience and the experience of others I know, you can really stand out against candidates who are far more tenured than you if you have been doing this work already. And so I guess what I'm saying is, you don't have to like wait for somebody to say, if only I had a product manager, I have this product, oh my God, it needs managing. You are allowed to start doing work on behalf of communities right where you are. So that would be my easiest piece of advice. Simple, not easy.
Yeah, simple, not easy. Great. Thank you. So moving from getting into product work in social impact organizations to career growth in social impact organizations. Stephen, do you mind starting this one off? What does career growth look like in social impact product world? And are there ladders? Do you need to carve out your own path? How did you navigate that?
There was no ladder for me, at least. I don't know. I was coming out of the journalism space, so I needed like a bridge and not a ladder. But I think I actually like I found both social impact and product, like the ladders were kind of fuzzy, but I kind of liked that because it allowed my career to evolve organically. There wasn't this like, do step A to get to step B to get to step C. Like I felt like I could have the career align with my path rather than having to like start from a first step. And I know so many people in product and social impact that come from different backgrounds. I spoke to a bunch of them like just before we started this panel. So I kind of like that actually. But yeah, there are some things you can do like on the product side. The biggest thing you can do is launch a product and put it out in the world. Whether it's a civic tech product or any type of product, I think that's the best way to understand product management, learn about a product from like a holistic perspective. And that to me was like a crash course in product management. Formal training, it's funny we're in BrainStation because I did a certificate at BrainStation. At the time, it was the only product management certificate you could get. This was when the office was up the street. And I met Baal there. Baal's not here, right? No. Okay. He's on the board, right? That's what. Okay, yeah. So Baal, like you'll if you come to these events, like you'll meet him. But he was my instructor, and he told this story about how he had gone for a job interview at RIM, and this was like not RIM now, but like RIM in the height of BlackBerry, to apply for a job or to interview for a job, and he told them all these like terrible things about their product and how it needed to be changed, and just like walked in and like told them how to fix their business, even though they were doing really well. And that was like really interesting to me, and I was like, it's just wild to think about doing that, but I would like to do that. So if that's what product people do, then I'm interested in that. Oh God, I totally lost my train of thought there. Okay, yeah, yeah. So, and I did the TPMA mentorship program as well. I was just mentioning that earlier. That was super useful. I was just telling Andrew, like, I was working at a nonprofit, so they had no idea who to like pair me with to be my mentor. But it ended up being Lee Garrison, who was like the head of TPMA at the time, and it was so that worked out well. So definitely recommend that. Um, on the social impact side, like Ilya mentioned, like I think you can start now. You can volunteer now. You can get involved, and that's going to help you going into any interviews with charities and nonprofits. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Melody, while charting your career path in product and social impact organizations, did you just walk into rooms and tell everyone what was wrong with what they were doing? Or?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's the
Yeah,
first thing I do. I actually had a very similar experience as well to Stephen, where there is no ladder. It is kind of an area where you carve your way in there. And that's actually something that I find really similar between startups and the not social impact sector, is that, even at Canada Helps, our charity and donor support team, they, after a couple of years working with charities, hearing their problems, really getting in detailed knowledge about what people are struggling with when it came to our products, they moved up into product, they moved up into account development, which is our word for sales, charity success. So again, it's like you show enthusiasm and care and wanting to learn for that area, and it's quite well received, both from the startup side and also from the social impact organization side. And also in my experience with charities and what you had mentioned earlier about getting involved like locally, 90% of charities are small charities. They're very welcoming and happy to have you interested in what they're doing or wanting to be part of their mission. So yeah, just go out there.
Good, that's a wonderful segue. Melody, I'm going to start with you then.
Okay.
What can leaders of social impact organizations do to better support product people in their practice?
So I think Canada Helps has actually been doing this really well. So what our product team does is we do something called product guilds, which is that we just have a topic around something in product. It could be, North Star metrics. It could be conducting a user interview, things like that, and hosting it to be open to the or entire organization. So other members of different teams can join and learn more about like what we're doing, how they can support, if there's interest perhaps also on the product side. And then also, I guess, what I mentioned earlier about offering these like, if someone expresses a desire to learn and wanting to move up and hearing their ideas out, I think, and letting them explore that from the product side. Also, I will say, with roadmaps. So if it's a mature product, and especially at these orgs, like deadlines are really important because it's tied to how they spend their money, which again, they're strapped for resources. Whereas something in like the product and startup world, especially if you're a newer product, it's like you can't be tied to the hard deadlines because the goal is learning. So it's like also shifting and adapting and trying to accept that mindset.
Thank you. It sounds almost like you're talking about building a product culture in an organization that does not have or might not have an existing product culture.
Yeah, but I think it all starts from the same, which is having the charities, the users kind of at the core. And because there's this like collective kind of deep user empathy for, charities, for nonprofit, for social impact, and this like deeper mission, it feels like a very natural shift. At least that's what I'm experiencing right now.
Thank you. Ilya, what does that look like when you're working with groups of, impassioned and concerned and interested citizens?
Yeah, I mean, it looks similar in the sense that you're a teacher, right? Like you are in a place where like you have things you have things you've practiced, and you're empowering other people to use them. Especially in spaces that are like volunteer groups or like nonprofits, they're significantly less hierarchical. In general, like everybody here has heard about like influence without authority. That is doubly and triply true in a lot of these spaces, right? Also, when you are working with like more like finite resources and more finite time, the only way that you are going to succeed on a product level is if other people are also empowered to make those decisions. And I think like a lot of this is about like trusting them, not saying like I'm the product manager, I understand product, you do not, you do the thing that you do. Instead, understanding that people here probably have like really deep expertise with respect to like the communities that you are serving, and saying that there is only like a small layer on top of that of like some product thinking that you can give people some tools, some frameworks. Hey, this is Figma. You can draw some boxes, right? And all of a sudden, you're in a place where you're activating people's like agency, you're activating their empathy, you're activating their intelligence, and that takes the load off you and empowers you. But you have to give up power for that to happen. So I would say like that would be like the biggest switch.
Quickly add to that, I 100% agree, because some of the people that I'm working with on my team have like 6, maybe 10 plus years of experience within the nonprofit sector, social impact. So it's like really accepting to learn from them as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Same question to you, Stephen, but a little bit of a wrinkle. As someone who's grown their career at Imagine Canada, I assume this has been an ongoing process of building sort of a product culture or at least a product space within the organization. How have you gone about doing that kind of over time?
I mean, it's kind of related, but sometimes it's like convincing people that they're product people when they like don't think they're product people. It's like, yeah, you're doing all the same things, but yeah, you just need a few, the frameworks and a little like pivot in your thinking. But like all that kind of learned experience, like lived experience, like can be applied, and gives you a really good understanding of the product. Um, I guess like we for sure have been like picking and choosing what to use and not use from the tech world, and what to keep from the social impact world. Things like theory of change, like in startups and tech, like you don't hear about theories of changes. Like there should be a theory of change for every company, but it doesn't exist there. But it's like that's a really useful tool in a charity or nonprofit to think about what change are you trying to make with the work you're doing. It's not just this isolated thing. It's like there's a long-term goal for your charity. So keeping those things, but then introducing sprints and introducing agile, where appropriate. I think it's difficult to, when like Imagine Canada is so diverse that we have like research teams, we have advocacy teams, and everyone kind of works at different paces and different ways. So it's been a challenge, but within our team, I think we've done a good job of kind of striking the balance between these like social impact frameworks, but also integrating the tech and startup frameworks.
You look like maybe you wanted to respond to that. You don't have to.
For 30 seconds or an hour. Yeah, I think that figuring out what to keep and what to drop from tech is like a really useful exercise, even if you were to go back into like a more traditional like tech company, because then you start thinking about, oh, what here am I doing because it's dogma? What here am I doing because it's like I heard that the people at Y Combinator do it, and what are you doing because it is the thing that works in this place? And so it really like forces that kind of reevaluation. For whatever it's worth, the things that like are like seemingly like mind blowing and like so useful when you bring them into social impact spaces, and like MVPs, and the idea of like make something quick and dirty to show people, and you don't have to continue building on it, and then telling them that user research and that thing you've been doing when you've been talking to people, listening to them and writing it down is in fact a practice, and is really valuable work and not a thing you're doing on the side. You tell them those two things and they believe they're product people, because they are.
I was about to ask, would you say that those are two starting points for the pivoting of thinking that Stephen was talking about? Okay, great. Cool. So we've talked about product tools that we can bring to social impact organizations. Let's turn the question around, and I'll start with you, Ilya, because you've just been speaking. How can for-profit businesses benefit from incorporating more social impact thinking into their product work?
Probably by changing the definition of benefit. But yeah, I think that like similar to how we were talking about social impact organizations, even if they have money as a throughput, that is like a metric in service of the ultimate goal. Starting to have impact as an independent metric, and not just an independent metric where like we keep it, but only if it bleeds up to money. No, having it as a thing that sits on the side and saying it is only worth us. It's fine to make money, but it's only worth it for us to be making that money if we are also moving this metric and this goal that we want to see in the world. And I think that's a benefit. A, because the world benefits from you doing that, like intrinsically, but B, because I think you will find that you are able to keep people like longer. They are going to be happier working for you, and ultimately they're going to have a better time doing it and do better work because they are not going to be questioning every day whether what they are doing is worth their time and energy. And so, yeah, keep that front and center. Be honest with it. People know when somebody's bullshitting them. Yeah, I would say that would be the biggest single change.
Cool. Thank you. Same question to you, Melody. What are one or two things that for-profit companies can benefit from bringing over from social impact work?
So bringing it back to user empathy again, I think it's that like collectiveness across the organization and really putting that much more center stage. After being in startups and also in now a charity, I definitely noticed the difference in how deeply immersed like the general organization is when it comes to like the user problems that are constantly talked about every day. I feel like it exists in startups for sure, but sometimes it gets lost in what you talked about earlier with kind of like, how much revenue are we generating, like monthly active users, things like that. Whereas at social impact organizations, charities, like that's definitely more grounded in like the roots of how the culture is.
Okay, and do you find that leads to greater alignment and consistency in decision making?
Definitely, because I would say, especially if you have a lot of interaction with charities, which at our organization is like a lot of people do. So everyone is kind of like tuning the same horn. We're all hearing the same things, we're grounded in these insights. And also because people are gathering those insights themselves, it's a conclusion that you come to on your own, which makes it easier to agree upon as a group.
Thank you. Same question to you, Steve.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd bring from your work?
Yeah, I think just like the focus on impact. It's funny, companies are really good at like corporations are really good at like co-opting the nonprofit language. I heard like some ad, it was like on a podcast, and it was like, Good Life Fitness has been trying to transform lives since its inception. And it's just like, I have nothing against Good Life, but they, like a lot of companies kind of took that language from charities and nonprofits. And I mean, that's fine. But I think, I guess to go back to what I was saying earlier, like that kind of ecosystem or like systems thinking of like, yeah, like how are you changing the environment around you, and you're not operating in a vacuum, and your customers and your staff, they all work in communities. They all care about what happens in those communities. They want to be safe and healthy, and their kids to be healthy. So why wouldn't you want to, grow and build your business in a way that aligns with that and uses that kind of leverage?
Thank you. One thing that every product meetup, every conversation I have with anyone about product touches on is the use of AI. So we're going to talk about it. We have to. How should social impact organizations in Canada be thinking about AI? Stephen, I'll start with you.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, yeah, we can't be like scared of it. And unfortunately, a lot of charities and nonprofits are really just trying to kind of avoid it entirely. And yeah, you can't ignore the risks, and you want to use it responsibly. So that's important. But I think like AI is inevitable, but how it's used and applied is not inevitable yet. It's still being kind of shaped. So I think my hope is that a lot of charities and nonprofits are trying to understand how this technology works, because that's the only way they'll be able to influence it. And that's how I'm thinking about it, at least. And then I think the other thing is there's such a huge capacity issue in nonprofits and charities. Everyone's overworked, and if AI provides some possibilities to address that, then like we have to explore it.
You mentioned quickly that charities need to be thinking about how to use AI responsibly. Does that speak to some specific concerns or considerations that not-for-profits and charities might have about the use of AI?
I mean, charities generally have terrible data governance. Like, you'd be surprised at how many charities and nonprofits have all their donor data in like a spreadsheet on someone's computer. It's not saved. It's it's not shared. It's not secure. So that's a concern of people kind of putting in personal data into an AI. So it's mostly uh, unintended consequences that I'm worried about there.
All right. Getting the nod that we should go to the final lightning round question and Q&A in 30 seconds or less. What excites you most about the future of mission-driven product work? Yes, 30 seconds or less.
It is completely green space, the same way startups were like 30 years ago. The book on how to do product management for social impact is being written. I invite everybody here to be part of writing that book.
I will say the shift in how different generations are giving. At the moment, we've found that a lot of the donations come from a smaller group of boomers who are giving more. But over time, this is going to shift, and the way that younger generations give is different, and the way they participate in generosity is different. So I think that shift will be very interesting. I'm both excited and a little bit scared for it.
Yeah, I'm excited about groups like this and civic tech and data for good and all these like communities that have popped up, because I think I was a little concerned about the kind of tech bends towards like libertarianism and kind of every man for himself, every person for themselves thinking, and it's inspiring to see that people are like, the antidote to that is kind of connection and community and people coming together to work on things, and that seems to be happening.
Cool. Thank you. We are going to switch to the Q&A section now. There are dozens of questions in here. Give me about 10 seconds to group some of them together. I will get to as many of them as possible. Here's one grounded right in the mission and the values. How do you ensure your organization's values and mission show up in the process, ops, and product? Stephen, this one's for you. You mentioned that it's baked into governance and legal, but how do you make sure that it comes through in process and ops and product?
Just like constantly brainwashing your entire staff into like remembering the mission, the theory of change, the vision. Like I would say there's just like organically charities and nonprofits put themselves under a lot of scrutiny, that they're like, are they doing the right things? Are they doing so? So I think it does happen pretty naturally. But I would say also, donors and funders and the board holds everyone accountable. So I think there's a lot of accountability, probably too much accountability among charities and nonprofits. So I'm not that concerned about that.
Cool. Thank you. Moving on to another question here. Melody, do you mind taking this one?
Yeah, sure.
Nonprofits are less hierarchical and some of them are full of politics. Are there occasionally challenges dealing with too many cooks in the kitchen?
Definitely. So bringing back that user empathy point again, because everyone has all these insights, because everyone comes to the table with, well, I heard this or I found this. What's missing is that bit of structure, prioritization, finding patterns, finding stories, prioritizing like what matters based off of those things. And that's where I think as product people, that's a strength that we can bring to these kinds of organizations.
Thank you. Ilya, this question is directed for you, and I can totally see why. What social impact products inspire you most, and which areas do you feel are still underserved?
What social impact products inspire me most? Who here knows about the GovZero movement in Taiwan? Show of hands. Okay. In brief, in Taiwan, a group of civic hackers started making interfaces for like basically taking data from the government sites and making more useful interfaces that got more use than the government sites. This movement grew and grew and grew, mostly crewed by people who were not from tech, people who did not have tech backgrounds, people who just really, really cared about their country. And when they had what they call the Sunflower Revolution, which was a peaceful sit-in of their legislative space, they started baking in a lot of the tooling and a lot of the principles that came from the GovZero movement into their government. And so that continuously inspires me for many reasons. One of them is because people didn't say, oh, I'm techie or I'm not techie. They took responsibility for the place where they lived and decided to make it better for others, and never looking for recognition. It's called GovZero because they talk about it as government by nobody. But the second bit is because what starts at this community level ends up changing the social fabric for the better of a place that has a lot of complexity. I'm not going to get into the history of Taiwan, but has a lot of complexity. So the fact that something can start small, be impactful, include everybody, and end up changing social fabric is the kind of thing that I believe is happening in Toronto and could happen at a much, much greater level. That idea inspires me to no end.
Thank you. Yeah.
There's a good book about it called Plurality. It's an open source book. You can find it on GitHub, and you can also just buy it.
Excellent. There's so many questions in here. I'm just trying to pick out the ones that. Okay. What is the largest challenge in your daily product work? That can go to any one of you who want to put your hand up, or all of you can answer that one.
Yeah, I can go. Yeah, being constantly under-resourced and having so many kind of users and stakeholders to manage. And I think so for Grand Connect specifically, we compete with for-profit products, American and Canadian products, and a lot of them. There's a lot of American companies trying to come into this market because they see how big and kind of lucrative the charitable sector is. So. Yeah, that's been really difficult. How do we compete with these companies that are more technologically advanced, bigger staffs, bigger teams, entire sales teams that we don't have? Yeah, it's really hard to compete. So, but we think, okay, what value do we have in terms of our empathy for the sector, just working in the sector and having that data and knowledge of what charities and nonprofits need, and also specific data that can add value that maybe some of these companies don't have access to.
Thank you. Melody and Ilya, this question can go to both of you. How do you go about finding a co-founder or a collaborator to start a social purpose product company with?
So in my experience, it started from people that I worked with already at a previous organization. It's the conversations that you have outside of just work, like what your interests are, what you care about, and understanding that side of the peers around you. That's how Toucan started. It was just us sharing what we would like to work on if we could. And then an opportunity came up. So yeah, definitely talk to people around you beyond just or at least your colleagues beyond just work, because these are people that you've worked with before, so you know how they work, and then you can align on what you care about.
Yeah, I'd echo that. If you have people who you think you'd like to work with, and who share similar values and similar convictions, same as with a startup, that's as good a place to start as any. If not, go to communities. Everything becomes easier when you are doing it with others and when you're in a room of other people who care. Because in a city like Toronto, anything you care about, you're a minority, but in that room, you will feel unstoppable. So this whole thing began to feel far, far more possible when I knew that there was a weekly meetup that's been happening in Toronto for 10 years without missing a week of people who think this same way. On my own, among my friends, I felt crazy. In that room, there were people who I didn't have to explain why this was important, and we could just start collaborating. So this applies to, of course, Civic Tech Toronto, but if there is an area that you want to work on, find the place where people do those meetups and go to that place. It'll be awkward. It feels like networking, but I promise you, in a place with shared purpose, that's a lot easier than at Elevate.
All right, thank you. I think we've got time for one more question, Andrew. Okay. Then let's actually leave with this. I want to leave a little room for this. If there's one final thought or one final idea or takeaway that you want to leave the folks in this room with and have them bring back to their dinner table, their Zoom meeting, their next, meet up with their family, just like, this stuck in my head.
That's a tough one. Yeah. Let me let me think. I think again, this kind of systems and ecosystems element. I know I've said systems like 15 times tonight, but it's important. And again, it's not something product people I think speak about enough. Is that like the world is becoming even more complex and integrated, and whatever you put out into the world, again, products or features, programs you're launching, like they affect a variety of different communities, and I think it's really important that you're able to zoom out and see what impact is having, what impact you want to have on different communities and different industries. Yeah, I would highly recommend just kind of looking a little bit more into systems thinking, because again, it's something that comes up all the time in the nonprofit world, but not enough in the tech and the product world.
Is there a great resource on systems thinking that you could tell people to start with? Ilya, you're nodding like you might have one.
Thinking in Systems by Donella Meadows is a short, incredibly powerful book. I got a degree in systems engineering. They didn't give me that book. I read it afterwards and I was very mad because that book was about as good as my degree.
It's a great book. It's such an obvious title. I couldn't think of it. Yeah, and there's a professor out of University of London named Professor something Jacobides. If you're actually interested in this, you can come up to me after and I'll find it. But he's developing the thinking around ecosystems but really like looking at nonprofits and charities, but also looking at for-profit companies and how they can think in terms of ecosystems.
All right, thank you. Melody, if there's one thing that you want to leave everyone with, what is it?
Okay, so I will say that as product people, if you even have an inkling of a feeling that you're curious about the social impact space to take from Nike, just do it. Your skills as product people, we're about learning, we're connecting dots, and those skills are very valuable in these organizations, even if you're not familiar with that sector. So I would say just put yourself out there and just go for it.
Thank you. Same question to you, Ilya.
I think a lot of the time in tech, we think about scale. And when you try to address the kinds of problems that a lot of like charities and nonprofits seem to address, it feels like the scale of the problem is just so vast. And especially if you're under-resourced, it feels like you wouldn't be able to touch that. And that can actually lead to a lot of people not wanting to try. You are allowed to scale horizontally. And what that means is you, with your community and your skills and your resources, solve the problems around you, or as many problems as you can, and trust that others will do their part. The most open source and the most scalable thing about anything you do is your story, is that other people will see what you do and realize that they can too. You on your own, or even you with your small group, aren't going to solve everything, but we are. And so the most powerful thing you can do is do something, do it well, and inspire and empower others to do their part as well.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to pass it back over to Andrew. Can we get one more round of applause for the speakers? Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, please keep it going for our moderator, Will, and all of the speakers. And for BrainStation for hosting us, thank you guys so much. I forgot to mention that our mentorship program is about to wrap up its intake for both mentors and mentees. So we've been talking about how you make an impact. Sometimes the best way to start is making an impact in someone else's life. So a lot of people join as both mentors and mentees. So no matter where you are in your experience level, there's usually someone both above and below you. And so it's a really great way of giving back. So check that out on the website. The winter and fall cohort is closing in like a week. There will be another one in the spring, but yeah, we're doing one last push. But yeah, and we wouldn't be a product organization if we weren't trying to get at least some feedback. So if you have some time when you're networking and things like that, let us know. Give us some ideas, like who could be some speakers, who could be, what are some topics that we should cover. We take them, we try and synthesize them, we try and add them together. So one last big round of applause for the amazing speakers and moderators and questions. And yeah, thanks so much. We're done for the night, but you can feel free to stick around. We've got pizza, we've got drinks still, and yeah, thanks so much. And go Jays.